Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably are a little bit curious as to where I am. Well, I made a little bit of a boo-boo, and so I had to come back home to record this video. So, I'm here in my bedroom recording this for you, just to let you know. And also, if you are a returning visitor, you probably already know that this is still the beginning of my year-long deep dive into the Thoth Tarot, created by Lady Frida Harris and Harris-Crowley, launching from the platform of the Golden Dawn, from which also Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coldman Smith launched their Smith-Waite deck, right? So, this is a twin path, companion path tarot to the Smith-Waite, if you want to think of it that way. But there are differences, and it's those differences that intrigue me. Lady Frida Harris's art, I think, is just phenomenal. And so I'm doing, like I said, a year dive into Thoth, the Thoth deck itself, and Thoth adjacent decks. I don't know if I've said that yet, but that's what I'm planning on doing for this year. So, friends, before we take a look at this week's spread, the main card for this week, and the spread that I'm using does have a main consciously focused card, and that card is the Three of Cups, which is titled Abundance in the Harris-Crowley deck. And I'd like to check in with you. What does abundance mean for you? I think we all have a very different sense of abundance. We have our own image of what abundance would look like, or does look like. What does it look like for you? Does it look like the lifestyles of the rich and famous, if you're old enough to remember that program? Champagne wishes and caviar dreams? Is that what it takes for you to feel like you're in abundance? Does abundance feel like being on a cruise through some distant sea? Does abundance feel like having a home that's stocked with plenty of food and is warm and comfortable and clean? Is that abundance for you? Is abundance for you a garden that's full of produce and flowers and things for you to enjoy? What is your abundance? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below. So friends, this week is about abundance, but abundance, again, for each of us is going to be very different. Is abundance for you having 100, 200, 300 decks, tarot and oracle decks? Is that abundance for you? Is abundance for you having 5 tarot or oracle decks? Again, it's all different for each of us, and that's the beauty of the human experience, I think. Each of our ideas of beauty itself, each of our ideas of love, of abundance, are different. And it's that diversity that creates this magnificent experience in this 3D co-creative manifesting universe, I believe. So what's your abundance? That's what you were going to be thinking of when we dive into this week's spread. My idea of abundance is going to look different from yours, and that's beautiful. That's wonderful. So friends, what are we about to do? We're going to dive into the spread. And as we dive into the spread, what I'll do is I'll show you the whole spread first, and then we'll break it down into the bits, and I'll explain the bits, and then we'll look at each bit and read the cards. Does that sound like a plan? Well, friends, here we go. Here is this week's spread. Friends, you just saw the full spread. What do you think? Do you think it's as beautiful as I do? I hope you do. I think this is a lovely spread. I love looking at Lady Frida Harris's art. I also like the companion tarot deck and oracle deck that I used for this spread. And if you're interested in getting any of these decks, the information is going to be in the description box below. So there'll be links for you to go and purchase one or more of these decks. Just fair warning, the larger central cards that I used in this spread are trimmed by me personally. Yeah, they're the large Thoth deck that I chopped the 3 of the borders off of. So if you want to get a deck that looks like that, you're going to have to do some trimming on your own. Just saying. But I love this spread. And what you just saw were 6 cards in the center that give us the both the conscious and unconscious main idea of the spread. Now, the 3 cards on top are where our heads are, what we're focusing on, and the 3 cards below are the unconscious or below the surface elements of this week's answer to the question, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? And then there were 4 cards around those central 6 cards, and those are from a different, basically a redrawing of the Thoth deck, and they are the elemental parts of the spread. 1 card for each of the 4 elements, 4 Western elements, right? Fire, air, water, and earth. And they come together to add a little bit more information to the spread. And then the 2 cards at the very, very ends were from an I-Ching oracle, and they will give us advice for this week. And that's the order that we're going to be reading them in. The top line, the bottom line of the central 6, and then we'll read the central 6 in a very different way. And then we'll look at the 4 elemental cards, and then we'll look at the 2 pieces of advice. So, are you all ready to leap into that with me? If you are, that's wonderful. And friends, thank you for those of you who have already hit the thumbs up button and have subscribed and hit the alarm bell for this channel. It helps the channel, and the alarm bell helps you. So I hope you do all of those things. And here we go. The 3 cards you just saw from left to right were the Hanged Man, the 3 of Cups, and then the Prince of Swords. Now, elementally, they are all pretty copacetic. Yeah, the Hanged Man is associated with water. The 3 of Cups is also associated with water. And the Prince of Swords is air, which is not in conflict, particularly with water. They'll walk comfortably side by side. They don't lift each other up. They don't push each other down. They're just comfortable companions, you might say. So, we'll start with the central card, which is where we begin the reading of this spread, this kind of spread. Yeah. So the central card is the primary idea, message. The card on the left is going to be what gives a little bit more information or modifies the card in the center. And then the card on the right adds information to those 2. And that's the order we're going to look at them in. And we'll begin with this beautiful, beautiful 3 of Cups. Love those pomegranate-shaped cups. Do you see them? Do you see the pomegranate styling of the cups? I hope you do, because I think that's an important element to this card. And the 3 of Cups here you see is titled Abundance, which is where I got the beginning of this video. And it's associated with Mercury in Cancer. Now, just to let you know, the astrological associations for the Thoth deck, and frankly for the Golden Dawn, are not my favorite associations in the world. I prefer the continental tarot system that was also adopted by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light in the United States. That system makes more sense to me. It's more logical to me. For example, the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, my moon sign. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. The cardinal, fixed, and mutable water signs. Yeah? They all have their own planets associated with them, right? So, the planet for Cancer is the moon. The planet for Scorpio, if you look at traditional, when I say traditional, I mean classic, the 7 visible lights associations for the planet, for the zodiac, would be Mars. Yeah, so Scorpio would have Mars, and then you'd have Jupiter in Pisces. So what does that mean? Well, for Cancer, the first decanate of the house of Cancer would have the moon. The second decanate of the house of Cancer would have Mars. The third decadent of the house of Cancer would have Jupiter. And Jupiter, interestingly, is exalted in Cancer. And that makes much more sense to me. Tossing Mercury in here in Cancer, frankly, is a little bit like, okay, you do you, boo. But then we can think of other things. Like I said, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, Mercury is Jupiter's partner, the way I think of it. So we've got Mercury in the house of his partner Jupiter. I'm sorry, we have Mercury in Jupiter's room, in his partner's room, which is Jupiter, in the house of Cancer, which would be the third decadent of Cancer. That's one way for me to work my head around it. Now, I think that's not the way that Aleister Crowley worked it out in his head, because he came from the Golden Dawn, which is, frankly, a little bit later than the continental Taurus. Just saying. So, what do we get when Mercury is in Cancer? That's another way to approach this. Yeah, if you look astrologically at Mercury being in the house of Cancer, we could get suggestions to do things like communicate gently. Yeah, Mercury is communication, and in the house of Cancer with the moon, we might want to soften the way we communicate. We may want to become intimate and vulnerable with others. Something that Cancer can be kind of protective, right? But with Mercury in there, we might want to be a little bit more open. If that makes sense. And that would make sense with the abundance card as well, I think. In the Three of Cups, our will is fulfilled and received in love, which is interesting because when Crowley talks about love, Crowley says all is love under the power of will. All is love under the power of will. So here, will is fulfilled and received in love as well. So we have the potential here to have what we want fulfilled in a loving way. But there's a potential to get lost in the underworld here, according to Crowley, which is why we have the pomegranates. So if we're pursuing what we have already consumed, like we've had a good experience, we liked something, and we keep going after that thing we've already experienced and we've already consumed, then we could dive into the the underworld of attachments and perhaps even, what do we call a keyword for the devil? Temptation and addiction. Right? There's that potential. The Three of Cups here has a potential dark side that Crowley likes to highlight. But we also might want to remember these pomegranates, right? With Persephone. Persephone is tempted by the pomegranate in the underworld. But what happens? She becomes the friggin' queen of the underworld, right? She gains a lot of power. She also gains independence from her mom. Yeah, she has to go back up to visit her mom every few months, but she also is, if we look at Persephone, how do you want to see Persephone? Do you want to see her as the victim who is raped and is forced to stay in the underworld with this evil, evil god of Hades? Or are you going to see Persephone as the one who gains her independence and her power? Yes, she separates from her mom, and that separation is an uncomfortable experience, but she goes down into the underworld. She makes the conscious choice to eat the pomegranate, which keeps her down there. And she gains her power, her independent power, as queen of the underworld. I think that's a much better way of reading the story of Persephone. So yeah, we could be tempted and we could be led into the underworld, but we could gain our own independence and our power down there if we allow ourselves to do that. Here, abundance is not abundance necessarily of natural flow of abundance from the divine, but rather abundance which is the fruit of our labors. And this abundance could be passing as soon as it arrives. There are mixed blessings here, according to Crowley. So, this is where we might want to start considering, what is abundance to us? If we only focus on the stuff that we personally make, all things shall pass, right? If we can give our attention to a broader sense of abundance, to the abundance of where we are, who we are, and what we are interacting with, and can open ourselves to receiving abundance in a more continual flow, we might have a different experience of the Three of Cups. Just like we might have a different experience of Persephone, depending on how we look at the story. Is she ripped away from her mother, or does she discover her independence and her power? So this card is a beautiful card full of wonderful stuff that has a dark underside unless we change our perception. And what is this card flanked by? The first flanking card is the Hanged Man, which is a water card. It's associated with the element of water. It joins Geberat to Hod, which is severity, to... I associate Hod with surrender. Surrender to what is, in a sense of not resisting that which might be standing in our way, but opening up to what is now here. Yeah? And in that sense, being able to conquer whatever it is because we're not fighting against it. That kind of victory is here with the Hanged Man. We also have the Hebrew letter Mem, which is the womb, the waters of life, waters more. And Iwaz is a rune, which is the symbol for the yew tree, a symbol of wisdom and endurance. So we've got wisdom, endurance, and the waters of life all here in the Hanged Man. And yet, Crowley has a fairly unappreciative perception of the Hanged Man. He thinks of the Hanged Man as someone stuck to an old way of viewing the world. A world which is now topsy-turvy, which is turned upside down. And yet, he does see that there is growth from the water implied. There is sacrifice. There is but there is also the potential for self-criticism here. There is something here that must be drowned to fertilize the earth. What was important is no longer important, so we must process change through death, through the release of the old. Here, which oftentimes we would associate a lot of that with the next card, which is the Death card. For him, the Death card is transformation, and this might be where death resides for Crowley. Because according to him, this Hanged Man is has not done the work of releasing, has not done the work of transforming, of doing what do we do with mulch to create fertilizer? We hasn't mulched whatever it is that needs to be cleared away, has not done that work to create the fertilizer yet. And this is that process of creating the fertilizer for Crowley. For me, on the other hand, I still see that I'm still in love with the Hanged Man. You know that, right? That's my moniker, the Hanged Man in the Moon. So, yes, we can draw some positive aspects out of this still. The sacrifice of what is no longer serving to the altar of new perspective, of wisdom, of endurance, of new life. Through Mem, the womb, the waters of life. releasing that which is no longer important to allow the new to have space to grow. Yeah? To take the severity of Gebra, to clear things away and surrender to the waters of what is. So what does that mean for the Three of Cups? What does it mean for the fulfillment of will? Well, this might be a call to recognize the darker side of the Three of Cups, right? That maybe instead of being afraid of going into the underworld like Persephone with the Three Cups, maybe that is where we are going to find our power, by going into the underworld and assuming and realizing our independence and our queendom, whether we're in male bodies or female bodies or trans bodies or cis bodies or intersex bodies, whatever the body, we are all kings, we're all queens, we're all knights. Well, I'm sorry, here we would be, we're all queens, we're all knights, we're all princesses, and we're all princes in the Thoth system. Right? So we've got that fulfillment of will. We've got this wonderful stuff that's here, and we can still enter into the underworld as Persephone did to discover our power. And instead of focusing on that stuff that we made by our hard work, we might, and with those things which will pass, we might enter into the underworld to discover the bounty that is there down there. And the bounty that is flowing always. Even in the dark. And these two cards are accompanied by the Prince of Swords, right? Which is, you can see here, is a fairly wild card. Now you see the three creatures in front of the prince, small sprite-like creatures going in different directions, kind of connected to the prince's vehicle, but not really organized and not really in control, right? Look, can you see the positions of their bodies? They're not in focused flight in a congruent direction. And the Prince of Swords is associated with Aquarius in this deck, from which we have the planet Saturn, because Aquarius is the domicile of Saturn, from which fixed air's vital attributes enter our world, which is wonderful. We also have hexagram 57 here. And 57 is called Sun. I think that's the pronunciation, Sun, not the sun, but Sun, which is wind above wind, air above air. Because the prince is air. Just like, for me, the knights in the Smith-Waite deck are air. So the Knight of Swords in the Smith-Waite deck is air of air, and here the Prince of Swords is air of air. Hexagram 57, what is that? Wind above wind. It's flexibility, yet able to penetrate when focused. Yeah, the air is able to move around stuff, right? Just about as well as water. And yet with the hexagram 57, that air which is flexible is still able to penetrate when it is focused, which makes perfect sense for the Prince of Swords, if you ask me. And it makes sense for Aquarius, because when Aquarius is focused, Aquarius can penetrate like a laser. And yet, if the thought is fragmented, things we cannot move forward. When it resolves, when those fragments resolve, they can resolve themselves into a clear pattern of understanding. So here, we're called for thought, consideration, mindfulness, being aware of who we are and where we are. Intellect, good Aquarian attribution, learning, freedom. Aquarians are totally into freedom and reason and logic. Not logic that's not yet amplified is according to Crowley, and I'm not really sure what to do with that. But logic not yet amplified. I'm sorry, that's why I can't understand what to do with it, because I'm reading my note wrong. Logic not yet applied. That's right. That's what I was thinking. And why was I thinking that? Because that's one of the pitfalls of Aquarians. Yeah? Aquarians can have all these wonderful, socially conscious, very progressive ideas, but if they're going to slip up on something, they're going to slip up on applying them and slip up on, while they are gregarious, actually being compassionate. Right? So we've got the logic here and the reason, but it's not yet applied. And that's the next step for this prince and also for Aquarians. Something untethered from its original goals might be here as well. Yeah, you start going off in a direction with these wonderful little sprites in your coach, and you've got your course planned out, but the sprites are not really moving in the same direction. They're kind of going in different directions, and so you're no longer in the same path that you started off on, and now your goal is somewhere over there, and you're going over here. Right? That's what this is pointing towards. That possibility. So we want to get our heads together. We want to apply that which we are thinking about. We want to be able to open to seeing the full pattern that is being revealed to us and through us. From that perspective of the hanged man who is getting rid of the old ideas and is fertilizing the new. As we have dived into the underworld as Persephone to claim our independence and our power. Perhaps eschewing some of that abundance that is the most obvious to find a different kind of abundance. And remembering to be gentle and vulnerable as we do that, because I think if we enter the underworld, in this case, closed up and self-protective, we're not going to be able to do the work of the Hanged Man and the Prince of Swords, the best version of the Prince of Swords, who is able to start applying that reason and that logic and doing so with compassion and with a sense of really helping those people around him or her or them. If we fall into the trap of Saturn's harshness, I think we're going to lose the potential that is here in the underworld if we're willing and ready to dive into that. Does that make sense? So we're perhaps being willing to eschew, to not attach ourselves to the very obvious abundance that is around us, and knowing that that will pass. And we're willing to dive into the underworld, to look for that pomegranate with gentility and vulnerability. And we're able to let that which we have let go in the overworld, above us, as we dived into the underworld, let that go to discover what's new for us there in those. Maybe the underworld is a water space for us now. And in that water space, we also allow those fragmented thoughts to settle into a pattern for us to really, really see what's there. And in so doing, discover our power. So in a sense, now we're being pointed towards the unconscious, towards the underground, and we've got 3 cards that are helping us with that part of the spread. So let's take a look at those 3 cards right now. That was a bit of a windy path to get us down here into the 3 cards of the unconscious or below the surface level of the spread. And we begin with the 2 of Cups, right? These 2 beautiful fish pouring out copious water, right? The lotus from above is pouring water down into the fish, and the fish are pouring down water into the 2 lotuses below. It's just a lovely card. The 2 cups below, full of green, yellow, blue, vibrant energy in the cooler tones, right? Yellow is actually a cool tone. Did you know that? So, 2 of Cups, the title is Love. So the central card down here in the underworld, in the underground, is love. And that's associated with Venus in Cancer. Again, a little bit odd. For me, Venus would not naturally be in Cancer, but here Venus is right there. Venus, Cancer. You can see them at the very, very top. And Venus, when the planet Venus is in the sign of Cancer, we have nurturing, protectiveness, and a little bit of self-protectiveness, being cautious but fertile at the same time. Now, people interpret this card as a very blessed card, right? Because we've got Venus here, we've got the moon being the natural planet of Cancer, and we've got Jupiter, which is exalted here. So there's a harmonious coming together, especially of opposing elements indicated by this card. Male, female, active, passive, top, bottom, hot, cold, generous, receptive. Many, many yin-yang, yang in Korean. So there's harmony and peace in the love of the 2 of Cups. And we recognize that each one of these fish, each one of those polarities, may have to sacrifice their own will to move forward together. Maybe not all of their will, but a bit of it so that they can move in the same direction, right? And this card combines the love of Venus, the receptivity and reflection of the moon, and the expansiveness of Jupiter. So this is a card of true beauty, expansive beauty, receptive beauty, loving beauty, reflective beauty. Reminded me a little bit of the Queen of Cups, just saying, especially in this deck, a very reflective card. So what we see when we go into the underworld for us right now is the 2 of Cups, love, which might ask of us some compromise perhaps, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But also, we compromise in order to experience harmony and peace, and moving in concert with that which we may have seen as opposite, but is now our companion. And this card is beautifully, beautifully supported by the 9 of Cups, which is happiness. See those 9 cups all pouring light and water into each other? I mean, it's supposed to be water, but they look like beams of light to me. And the title of this card is Happiness. So love is supported by happiness here, which is Jupiter in Pisces, a perfect home for Jupiter. So we have mutable water's vital attributes entering our world. And it's an expansive and full of deep emotions. It's a celebration to create or reward happiness here. Yeah? Happiness can be rewarded in and of itself. It can be the reward, but it can be rewarded as well. And we can create happiness also by celebrating. A celebration can be a recognition of our happiness as well as a way to create it, to expand it like Jupiter does. So we want to fulfill our emotion for what has been accomplished as well. Now we fulfill that joy of feeling of success here. True wisdom is self-fulfilled in perfect happiness here. And that wisdom comes from the joining of the opposites and a little bit of sacrificing, but also that sacrifice in order to move forward in union, which is the goal of this. The goal. Let's go with goal. The goal of this manifested universe, right? We manifest diversity in order to rediscover our unity. Does that make sense? And yet, Crowley has a dark side to this card, right? To every peaceful time, a storm comes to shake things up. We want to be careful of overindulging here. And we don't want to get full of ourselves either. Now, this happiness is a step on our way to our evolution. And our happiness can be recognized and celebrated and can be the cause of celebration and can be the result of celebration. And yet, that's not the end of the line. We don't want to get attached to it, or else we will crumble with it as it dissolves. So here we are given the opportunity to celebrate this union and let that celebration feed our happiness and be the reward of that union. And our happiness can be the reward of that union. And that union can be rewarded by happiness. All of that feeding within each other. And yet we don't want to try to attach ourselves to that. We want to keep moving forward. And yet, this card is problematic. The third card is a fire card, Aeon, which would be Judgment in a Smith-Waite deck, or in a TDM deck, actually. TDM is Tarot de Marseille, just in case you don't know that, just in case. And TDM, Tarot de Marseille, predates the Golden Dawn, just in case you don't know that either. So, Crowley completely renamed the Judgment card Aeon, which is fine, which is great. And the Aeon card is the path from Hod. Remember we had the path from Geberat to Hod with the Hanged Man above. Here we go from Hod to Malkuth, the last one. So we go from that surrender to what is to manifestation here, which is wonderful. Which is absolutely wonderful. However, the association here of fire puts this card in an ill-dignified position with the two water cards beside it. Fire and water are enemies. They are ill-dignified. Bing! The light bulb just went off. Because I had been up until now trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with this card. And I just got it. Because of this one. This is, so what am I saying? And now I think I'm beating myself up just a little bit for not realizing it before I got to this seat here, that this joining of the two is the joining of, we just said the two opposites, right? Joining of opposites, harmony and peace of opposites. Right? Each needing to sacrifice a little bit to move forward. Well, we've got the joining of water and fire. Of Jupiter in Pisces and fire. In a loving position. Why? Remember how we were just saying that we don't want to get attached to the happiness? Well, this is the solution to that. So we surrender to what is and we move into manifestation, yes. But the attributes for this card are very interesting. Yeah, in the Crowley deck, in the Harris-Crowley deck. Final decision with respect to our course of past to present to future is indicated here. Now there are three gods here. There are three gods indicated here. One is Nuit. Is Nuit. I'm sorry, is it Nuit? Nut? It's Nut, I think, which is the blue lady arched over the top. And then there is the god of this thing down here, which doesn't look like anything, but this is an indication of a god. And that god is Hathor, I think. And then we've got two versions of Horus here. Yeah, we've got the seated adult Horus, and then we've got the silent baby Horus, which is really large and transparent. Do you see those two Horuses there? So in this card, we have the past moving to the present, to the future, which is that future being the baby Horus, the silent Horus. Taking a definitive step, making every act in accordance with our target of our will. Also asking where our actions are leading us. We want to scrutinize what we're doing, making sure that the things that we're doing are actually taking us in the direction we want to go in, right? A little bit of inventory is being asked for. Scrutinizing our actions, our connections, and our decisions is very important for us right now. Every action or decision brings about a new state of being here. So we ask ourselves, where have I been? Where am I now? Where am I going? Are the actions that I'm performing moving me in the direction of where I want to be going? Which is very different from the sense of the call of the judgment card in other decks, right? Where we're being called and summoned by the divine, or we're being called and summoned to a judgment of who we have been in the world. This is our own self-analysis of the direction we're going. Making sure that every action we take is one moving in the direction of where we want to go. So there's scrutiny here from our surrender to our manifestation. And that, in concert with the Nine of Cups of celebrating, I think is what this Two of Cups is pointing towards. Right? We want to join that scrutiny and the deliberate movement forward of the fire, of our passionate fire, and making sure that every action we perform is moving us in the direction of where we want to go and is not just a random thing that is taking us off course, or is we're building a fire that's blocking our path forward. At the same time that we celebrate and recognize and enjoy who we are and where we are and what we are doing, we're feeling the expansiveness of Jupiter in the deep, broad waters of Pisces. And enjoying the peacefulness of the present, ever eternal now. If we can allow ourselves to do that. As we scrutinize where we're going forward, if we can marry those two, we'll have to probably soften our scrutiny. We'll have to probably allow some of that happiness to pass as we move forward, but we can do it with love, with Venus in Cancer. In beauty, in receptivity, in reflection. Not only reflection of other, but that sense of reflection of thinking about who we are, and where we're going. That kind of reflection, right? And expansiveness of Jupiter. Because Jupiter was right here, right? So the blessing of the exaltation of Jupiter, joined with the deliberate movement forward and scrutiny of the Eon card. It's kind of a tricky balance, isn't it? Kind of interesting. Now, we're going to read these 6 cards in a very different way in just a moment. I'll show you a picture that will give you how the cards are going to be reassociated, and then we'll start reading them together. Here we go. Friends, we're starting off with the 3 of Cups again, but this time flanked by the 9 of Cups and Aeon. So Aeon here is again ill-dignified. And it's not being joined together with the 9 of Cups like it was in the bottom row. Here we've got the 3 of Cups above, which is abundance. Yeah, we've got abundance at the top with Mercury in Cancer, paired with Mercury's best buddy, some might even say lover, I would say lover, Jupiter in Pisces. So we've got 2 water signs, Cancer and Pisces. We got Mercury in one, a little bit awkward, but we've got Jupiter in the other, very, very happy, very expansive. We got the mentor and the pupil. We've got the older and younger lovers. We've got the messenger and the sender of the message. We got all of that together. So the 3 of Cups are abundance, right? Fulfillment of will received in love. That abundance, this is perhaps a time to remember, we said we want to not get attached to it, be ready, willing, and able to dive into the underworld and leave that behind, and yet we can still celebrate it here with the 9 of Cups. We don't want to look at it as, if you know what I mean. Yeah, we don't want to disregard or disrespect or look poorly on the surface abundance that is the fruit of our labor, because heck, celebrating the fruits of our labors is a wonderful thing, and this card here from below, from the unconscious, can help support that. We want to celebrate the fulfillment of will received in love, even though it will pass. That abundance, which is the fruit of our labors, we want to be able to celebrate that, yes. And then dive into the underworld, right? Yeah, celebrate it first and then dive in. And yet that could be hindered strongly by, where are you? By this guy. Right here, yeah? Here, that celebration is hindered by the Aeon card, which is saying, now wait. Yeah? Where are we going? Focus, pay attention. What's going on? Are you doing the right thing? What's going on? That dark side of the Aeon card, I think, that harsh side of the Aeon card has the potential of standing in the way of our celebration of where we are and who we are, and that abundance which is the result of our work in the world. So we want to be careful of that, yeah? Because sometimes, do you ever find yourself doing that? Yeah, I got the prize, I got the good stuff, I got the money, I got the whatever it is. That is our experience of abundance at this moment. And then you think, but I know I've got to keep going. I got to keep. Where am I? What am I doing? What's going on? What am I going to do next? Where is my path leading me? Without fully celebrating and congratulating self for the accomplishments we've had. Have you ever done that? Have you done that regularly? So that's what is a potential for us, I believe, here right now. Now, the 3 of Cups, we want to celebrate those things that we do manifest of our own actions, the abundance that we receive from as fruits of our labor. I can speak English in here somewhere. Yeah. We want to celebrate the abundance which is the fruits of our labor, even though they will pass. And not get so caught up all of the time in scrutiny, because that will be a hindrance. And then below, we got the love card, right? The Two of Cups, the love. And this is now flanked by, where are you, Mr. Hanged One? This is flanked by the Hanged Man and, I'll just set these down here. Okay, this is flanked by the Hanged Man and the Prince of Swords. So we've got our love here, the joining of opposites. Water and air. Not exactly opposites, right? And yet maybe part of the joining of opposites, in addition to the joining of the Nine of Cups of success and happiness and the fire of Aeon and focusing on inventory of what am I doing, where am I going, are the things that I'm doing helping me, and what is the next proper action? There is that. But the Two of Cups can here also join our surrender into the depths of the water, where we take the crap that the old crap that is no longer serving us, and allow that to become fertilizer. As we join that with our Aquarian mind of logic and rationality and figuring stuff out and having a progressive mindset that will see the path forward for us and those around us. So we join our, at the moment, transformation through death and release of the old, as we also focus on the future of the progressive Aquarian. We can combine those two in love with the Two of Cups. So this Two of Cups is a really busy card for us in this spread. Sitting down there in the below the surface level. It's joining happiness and the passionate forward movement of right action of Aeon. And it's also in combining in the conscious sphere the Hanged Man and the Prince of Swords. Sacrificing that of the old for the progression to the new. Together. Simultaneously. And maybe the Aquarian and the Hanged Man are going to have to give up a little bit in order to move forward together. Does that make sense? I think it does. I hope this is rationally understandable, and not just a wrap of words that are, I think, meaningful, but might not be meaningful to you. What do you think? Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments below. I would really love to hear from you. This kind of makes sense to me, and it makes more sense as we go through the reading. So right now, we're going to move on to the 4 elements, right? So let me show you those 4 cards right now. You saw the 4 cards for the 4 elements. Starting in the upper left and going clockwise, the Nine of Wands, which we had in that same spot last week. Do you recall? That's pretty interesting. And then we go into the Prince of Discs in air, and then down in water we had the Princess of Discs, and then over in earth we had Death. The Death card is out for us today. As far as elemental dignities go, fire in fire was cool, right? Earth and air, the Prince of Discs in the air spot is ill-dignified. And yet there's a little bit of a workaround here. How? Well, the Prince of Discs, who is that? The Prince of Discs is the heir of Earth. So perhaps the prince being in the air spot is not necessarily ill-dignified, at least not as ill-dignified as perhaps like the 2 of discs or the 5 of discs would be ill-dignified there, because the prince is naturally an air person in the earth. So maybe we can smooth over that ill dignity with the prince of discs. And moving down into the princess of discs, we've got earth of earth in water, that's fine. And then in the earth side, we have death, but death here is Scorpio, which is water and earth, they build each other up. So both the princess of discs and the death card build each other up. Fire and fire builds it up. And then the prince of discs with air of earth, let's just say that's copacetic. I just decided that. That's copacetic, okay? It's fine. So we'll start off with the 9 of swords. I'm sorry, the Knight of Wands here. And you'll recall that this is the moon in Sagittarius, which is a little odd, but let's go with it, which is a passion for learning. Seeking truth about people and the world around us is part of people who have the moon in Sagittarius. So it might be a time of rapid progress. Yeah, Sagittarius, that bow flying forward through the sky, illuminated by the moon, perhaps. Requiring steady strength. Little actions to encourage others can add up here. Yeah? Crowley talks about this card like the Aikido master, who is not like busy doing stuff, but is poised and fluidly in motion, waiting for the right opportunity to just took something into place and then took something into place, right? So there are all these things. Think of things floating in space, and the Aikido master is there, and the Aikido master sees that the things are moving generally in the right direction, but every so often the trajectory gets a little bit off, and so just with a little quick dunk, can move things right back into place, right? Rather than wrestling things to the ground. So applying small energy to great effect. And this card is asking us to release our burdens and be vigilant. There are a lot of indications in this week's spread of paying attention, being vigilant. What is the next step? Is that step actually moving us in the right direction? And this emphasizes that. Perseverance and moving onwards towards our goal. Enjoying where we are, but moving in the direction of our goal. We had that with the Aeon card, right? We also had that with the Prince of Swords. So our passions are also asking us to do the same thing. So everything is pointing towards what we want. And yet we want to gently guide it on its way. And that's what's in our fire, in our passion, in our creativity, in our fire. And then we move into the air, the companion the companion to fire. Now, both fire and air are the active elements, right? And here we have the Prince of Discs, which is, like I said, air of earth. And it's Taurus, which is the domicile of Venus, from which fixed Earth's vital attributes enter our world. We have fixed Earth, and also enjoyment of who we are and where we are. But for Crowley, this is also hexagram 53, which is Kine, I think, called gradual advice by some people or development by others. This is the wind above mountains, wind blowing over the mountains. So things that are called for are planning, strategy, stepped organization of affairs toward a long-term goal. Now we take step by step by step by step, organizing things in a stepwise fashion towards the goal we want to go in, and planning and strategizing. That's all hexagram 53. And emphasizes again those aspects of the larger spread. So there's a benefit to bringing slow adaptation and performing reality checks here in our headspace. Because this is the air part of the suit, of the elemental part of the spread. There are benefits in bringing slow adaptation, performing reality checks and repurposing of our circumstances to our intended goal. So we check out where we are, where we're going, what we're doing, adapt, not rush forward, adapt slowly, because this is air of earth, right? And when things seem to be going akimbo or seem to be going off of track or being now less useful, like that hanged man, right? The hanged man takes the stuff which is no longer useful and turns it into fertilizer. Here we're asked to take those things which are no longer serving us and repurposing them, which is kind of like that hanged man part, right? Bringing everything down to earth, reality checks, also abundance of resources. We have abundance reconfirmed here. Abundance of resources and good timing is also appropriate here. So in our headspace, we analyze, we do reality checks, we figure out how to, that stuff which is no longer serving us, how can we repurpose that? I mean, think of things like you've used up a bottle, a plastic bottle or a glass bottle, and you figure out a way to reuse that, turn it into a wine glass, or maybe turn it into a flower vase, or turn it into something that is useful for your greater purpose in the future. Even though it has been consumed and what's left is no longer of service in the way it was. We repurpose it, right? That's what we're asked to consider right now. As we also acknowledge the abundance that we have and that we are in possession of good timing, and which is wonderful because we're going to move right down into the princess of discs in water. And water and earth, they build each other up. They strengthen each other. Princess of discs, earth of earth. This card also points to hexagram 52, which is Khan, which is keeping still. Mountain over mountain, a body at rest. So, keeping our emotions and our intuition still is called for here. The current situation right now is pregnant with possibilities. A lot of people point to the princess. You don't see it so much here, but people see in Lady Frida Harris's artwork that the princess might be pregnant. I don't particularly see it, but that's the way it's interpreted by some. So the current situation is pregnant with possibility. The ending of one lifestyle is the beginning of another, and here we have an echo again of the Hanged Man card, right? Of that transition. The old is ended. The Prince of Discs is asked to repurpose that old stuff, if possible. The princess here in our emotions is calling us to be emotionally ready for that transition. It's the darkest hour before the dawn. That dark hour of the hanged man plunged deep in the water. Because we're moving from the dark to the light, we could also be moving from the light to the dark, but I think here we're moving from the dark to the light. There's a change in progress. So we want to check our old patterns of fixed habits and ways of thinking. And those things, we can toss them up to the Prince of Discs to repurpose them and emotionally prepare ourselves for that transition that we're in the middle of. Because we are moving right into the manifestation, the earth of the suit, which is this very interesting death card. Now you see the death is holding a large, what is that? It's a sword, which is also a caduceus, pointing down to the ground. We can see the scorpion down here because this card points to Scorpio, which is the domicile of Mars, from which fixed water's vital attributes enter our world. And there's also like a a double helix DNA kind of thing going on over here. Indicated here, I believe, in both blue and red, which are in Korea, the Taoist picture of yin yang in China is black and white. The yin yang in Korea is blue and red. And so I see a little bit of that here. And this card is still pointing again to Scorpio with Mars as the planet and fixed water's vital attributes. And Crowley generally has a really, really negative opinion of Scorpio. However, Crowley also rates Scorpio and Leo as the two most powerful signs of the zodiac, which I kind of like. My sun sign is Leo. My moon, my ascendant is Scorpio. Kind of like that. This card connects Tipreth and Netzach. And no, let's not go there. Okay, so that's not so important right now. So according to Crowley, this is the time to face facts. To dance with the coming change and embrace it. And any strain that is felt is a signal of our attachments. So when we feel strain in the transition, it's not like this transition is a bad thing. That strain is an indication of something that we want to let go of and relax into this transition. So we want to cut through our fixed ideas and comforts to release them for something new. And there are three possible paths of the Scorpion, which are indicated in the Crowley deck. And let's see, I can't really find them clearly here, although there are bubbles coming up. I don't know if I can point them out clearly for you. There are bubbles coming up here, which might have those indicated, but I don't see it. There are three levels of Scorpio. Yeah, there is the Scorpion, there is the snake, and there's the eagle. Some will point to a fourth of the phoenix as being the fourth and final stage of the Scorpion. Of the Scorpio, I should say. Scorpion, snake, eagle, and then maybe phoenix, of rising from the ashes, of death. So we're asked to think of three levels. One, surrendering to the strain of the environment, opening to whatever happens as the Scorpion. As the snake, progress by give and take, highs and lows, undulating like the snake. That's instead of anticipating or expecting that we're going to move forward like Sagittarius's bow, boom, we're going to move forward like a snake, which is an undulation. Right? Ups and downs, highs and lows, lefts and rights, but moving us forward. And then the eagle, rising above the situation, transcending it, seeing the big picture, just like the Prince of Swords might want to do in the central part of the spread, right? Here we've got three levels of this. Surrendering, like the Hanged Man. Progress by give and take, like the Three of Cups, perhaps, although the Two of Cups. And then arising above the situation, transcending it like the Prince of Swords. To see the big picture. If you allow the fragments to come together, we'll see the big picture from high above. So those are the suggestions from the elements. Yeah, in fire, we want our strength. We want to persevere, move onward with subtlety. Not with carrying a hammer, but gently, using minimal effort for great effect. In our mind, we want to be the Prince of Discs, which is scrutinizing who we are, inventory, reflection. What did I say? Reality checks, doing reality checks. Emotionally, we want to keep ourselves stable and grounded and allow the change to happen. Checking our old habits and our fixed beliefs and allowing those fixed beliefs to be tossed up into our head where we can repurpose them perhaps. And then we move into our manifested earth of change in 3 or more levels. Surrendering to what it is, moving forward by giving and taking, and rising above and seeing the full picture, and maybe finding our rebirth as the phoenix. So that is the spread. We've got 2 cards from the I-Ching to give us some advice. Let's take a look at those right now. Here they are. Those are the 2 I-Ching cards. We got on the left 39 and on the right 35. And when I first checked in with these 2 hexagrams, my first thought was I was confused on 35, frankly. I thought, oh, this doesn't look so good. And then I looked at the book more carefully, and then I thought, oh no, I get it now. Why? Well, let's start off with 39, and you can, I don't know if you can see in this card, there are 2, let me put it up as close as I possibly can without like being a contortionist. I don't know if you can see those 2 figures moving on that distant horizon there. But 39 is hexagram 39, which is water over mountain. Water flowing over a mountain, which is limping. It could be an obstruction. Now, mountains pose an obstruction to water, to the flow of water. Don't really see water flowing over a mountain in the picture, but it's a pretty picture. It's a little difficult to see what's actually there because the things that are there are very, very, very small. But this hexagram is pointing to obstacles ahead, movement being hindered. That we want to face our challenges and our difficulties. And that we will find wisdom in pausing and adjusting our direction. A different direction may be smoother. When we come against an obstacle or a mountain, I've restarted my Lenormand studies for next year, and because I'm thinking of bringing Lenormand to my channel, just saying. Suddenly the mountain as obstacle from Lenormand sprung into my mind just right now. Even with the Lenormand card, with that mountain, oftentimes there's a path around that is indicated by the card, if it's a well-drawn card. And so, yeah, even here, we've got that idea of take a moment, pause. Is there an easier way of doing this? Pause, reflect, choose the best strategy. Focus on the inner virtues too, and avoid overreaching. Try not doing too much. Try not to achieve too much. Not saying that you can't achieve everything you want to achieve, but avoid trying to take too big of a step. Instead, we want to go with the incremental steps up to the same place, right? But don't overreach. Move there in a steady progression, and that was indicated in the larger spread, right? So that's the advice here. We'll come up against obstacles, obstructions. Assess. Reflect. Reality check. There's probably an easier path. We don't have to take that mountain in one step either. And what is joined to that? This is the one that I misread. Hexagram 35, which is actually prospering or progress. It's fire over earth, which are actually in elemental dignities for Tarot. They are actually opposing forces. No. I'm sorry. What am I saying? No. They're not. They are mutually. They're copacetic. I'm sorry. brain fart. Yes, fire over earth, not a problem. Here, actually, it's beneficial. Yeah, for Thoreau, usually we think of fire and air as building each other up. Earth and water as building each other up. Fire and earth, they're good together, they're fine. Air and water, they're good together, they're fine. Fire and water, ill-dignified. Air and earth, ill-dignified, right? But here, fire over earth is a good thing. Progress and success. Bright outlook in career and in life. So it's suggesting here to keep moving forward with correct actions. That's really being strongly emphasized throughout this spread, is move forward with correct actions. Ensure success and advancement. Positive thinking and actions help. Positive actions help. Positive thinking helps. Right action and strategy are called for here. Stay open and adaptable, like Jupiter is open and expansive and adaptable, but do the right thing. Keep moving forward. Right actions, good thinking, positive thinking, moves us on our way. And a helpful person with influence might emerge. That could be a good thing. Now, what do we see in this card? What we see in this card looks like the banks of maybe the banks of a river up close, or maybe a coastline. I just can't tell. There might be a tiger there. I don't know. The images on this card don't really help me all that much, frankly. But what do we have? We move forward. There could be an obstacle, but don't worry. Don't try and jump over the whole mountain at one leap. Find the smoother path. Recognize that we are in the process of progress and success. We have a bright outlook. Keep moving forward with good actions, correct actions, positive thinking, positive actions. Strategy is called for, but we're in a good place if we keep moving. And we don't look at an obstacle as, I give up, right? We look at the mountain, we say, okay, I rise above, I see the pattern, I move in the direction of least resistance. Positive. Happy, right? Happiness, abundance, love, joining, all of those things are the right actions. Surrendering that which is old and outdated and repurposing it, mulching it, turning it into fertilizer and creating something new as we move forward. That's how we can live intentionally. Sounds easy, right? So friends, this is the end of this reading. Now, I also have, if you are a regular to my channel, I also have a Tarot de Marseille reading, which will give us a more concise message, a central message for this large spread with so much power, so much information, but albeit information that has been repeated, right? You've heard those repeated messages throughout the whole spread. So we've got a TDM reading that will be coming up later on after this one has been uploaded. I recommend you hop over and take a look at that in a day or so. Yeah, let me know below. What do you think? Now, if you want a private reading from me, my email address is below, thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, we can get you a reading. Or in the comments below, ask me for a reading, we'll figure out a way to connect on another more private platform, right? And if you're interested in the decks, again, there will be links below. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.